June 24th, midnight. Marvel drops Ironheart, the series already being labeled the MCU's biggest misfire, before a single episode even airs. Panic meetings, firings, and disastrous test screenings are stacking up like dominoes inside Disney's. Glass towers and insiders fear the shrapnel could cripple next year's make-or-break Fantastic Four reboot. What happened behind those closed doors? Why is Bob Iger betting the house on a show fans never asked for? Stick around. What's about to be exposed is wilder than fiction, friends. Back in early November 2022, the cameras shut off, the suits were packed away, and Ironheart was technically done. Yet instead of streaming that winter, as Disney's release grid first promised, the finished episodes were boxed up and left to gather dust. Internal memos blamed content output reevaluation, but insiders pointed to a louder truth. Early rough cuts just weren't landing. Plans slipped from late 2023 to an undefined 2024, then disappeared entirely when the 2023 strikes hit. By the time reshoots ran from February to April 2024, the show had already spent more time in limbo than in production. Now, with a June 24th, 2025 launch finally locked, fans are asking the obvious. If Marvel believed in this series, why bury it for nearly 3 years? But shelving a show is one thing. Watching audiences flee mid-screening is another, and that's exactly what the next chapter reveals. The first alarm bells rang long before the trailer dropped. In mid-April 2025, Marvel invited 2 small, NDA-shielded audiences to back-to-back Ironheart test screenings in Burbank and Atlanta. According to several attendees who later spoke with YouTube commentators, the feedback forms averaged 2 out of 10, so brutal that a handful of viewers reportedly left before the credits rolled, calling the cut the MCU's worst creation. Within 48 hours, Disney convened an emergency Zoom with Kevin Feige, Bob Iger, and the showrunners. Notes poured in. Pacing, painfully slow. Armor design, Power Ranger knockoff. And the climactic twist undermines Tony Stark's legacy. Marvel scrambled. Fresh reshoots were ordered for late April. Editors were told to shave 8 minutes off the pilot. A VFX vendor was swapped out to de-toyify the suit's color palette. Yet internal morale only sank further when an exec leaked that the studio had already penciled in a 3rd screening for the 2nd week of June, the final checkpoint just 12 days before launch. Behind closed doors, one producer summed it up. If we can't fix this in 4 weeks, we're lighting a match under Fantastic Four. And with that grim warning echoing through Marvel's corridors, the crisis spilled onto the public stage, right in time for the trailer backlash. May 15th, Marvel finally hit publish, and the internet hit back harder. Within 48 hours, the Ironheart teaser racked up a startling 64% dislike ratio on YouTube, eclipsing even the record-setting rejection of the Marvels the year before. Fan run trackers logged more than 200,000 thumbs down before the first ad cycle ended, while hashtags like #not my Iron Man and #MCU spun out trended across X and TikTok. Comment threads torched the candy-colored armor. Power Rangers in a scrapyard was a favorite, while others slammed the trailer's downgrade Tony, upgrade nobody vibe. Review sites piled on, noting that the clip's view-through rate plunged below 35%. A red flag for Disney advertisers. Behind the scenes, execs watched the numbers spiral and realized this wasn't a routine dislike bomb. It was a detonation. The once defended marketing playbook that sold the Marvels was now radioactive, and Bob Iger wanted a scapegoat before sunrise. By dawn, conference rooms were booked for what insiders dubbed the Monday Morning Massacre, setting the stage for the next, even bloodier chapter. The Monday after the trailer debacle, Disney's West Coast offices went eerily quiet, until word leaked that Bob Iger had just dissolved the very team that cut the teaser. According to industry tipsters, the same marketers who tried and failed to prop up the Marvels were summoned to a 7 a.m. video call, thanked for their service, and locked out of their email by noon. Inside sources say Iger framed the purge as realigning creative priorities, yet staff described it as classic scapegoating. Pull the plug, then promise a miracle trailer in 3 weeks. A hastily assembled replacement crew, drawn from Disney's theme parks division and an outside social media shop, has been ordered to produce a leaner, grittier spot by mid-June, complete with toned-down armor colors and a sharper focus on Riri's Chicago roots. One insider joked the mandate is simple: make people forget the first trailer ever happened. But the fallout doesn't end with a few pink slips. Execs now fear the bad optics could bleed straight into Marvel's biggest gamble of 2025, the long-awaited Fantastic Four reboot. And that anxiety is fueling an even riskier chain reaction. Here's why Marvel's boardroom lights are still on at 2 a.m. Ironheart hits Disney Plus just 31 days before Fantastic Four. First Steps drops in theaters on July 25, 2025. That razor-thin window means any bad buzz from Riri's show will still be echoing when tickets for the first family go on sale. Executives had hoped Reed, Sue, Johnny, and Ben would reboot Phase 6 with a billion-dollar bang, but early tremors are already rattling the launchpad. The teaser trailer drew its own flack. Fans roasted the thing's Seth Rogen in a rock suit voice and called the CGI rubbery. Meanwhile, Julia Garner's gender-flipped Silver Surfer sparked a fresh round of woke swap hashtags, with commenters asking why the classic Norrin Rad is getting sidelined. Inside Marvel, the math looks brutal. If Ironheart hemorrhages goodwill in late June, ticket buyers could shrug off a brand new franchise in late July. One finance memo warns that every percentage point dip in Rotten Tomatoes for the series could shave $25 million off the film's opening weekend ceiling. Marketing chiefs are now yanking crossover references from early TV spots. They don't want Riri's flaming wreckage visible in the background of Reed's big debut. To steady the ship, Marvel quietly ordered 3 days of pickups on the Fantastic Four soundstage last month, tightening dialogue, adding a Reed-Sue balcony scene, and, rumor has it, deepening Ben Grimm's voice with new ADR. Fix everything we can control, one producer quipped, because we can't Cottrell-Z'd Ironheart. Yet even perfect reshoots can't erase the timing. In 4 short weeks, the MCU will ask viewers to binge a polarizing 6-episode techno-fantasy and then pony up IMAX prices for a retro-futurist space epic. If the first half of that equation bombs, the second half may never get to launch. And speaking of people stuck on the launch pad, Section 6 dives into the creators, and cast members now learning their Marvel futures might be getting rewritten in real time. The backlash hasn't stopped at boardroom PowerPoints. Real people's careers are suddenly on the chopping block. First up, co-creator fallout. Artist Mike Deodato Jr. revealed on a Brazilian podcast last month that neither he nor writer Brian Michael Bendis has seen a single royalty check for Riri's live-action debut. "Marvel sent me a poster," Deodato joked, but a poster doesn't pay rent. Fan forums exploded, branding it the Miles Morales treatment all over again. Then came the talent purge. Dominique Thorne was quietly written out of 2 cameo contracts, Avengers, Doomsday, and the phase-ending Secret Wars, after execs decided that doubling down on Ironheart outside her own show might contaminate tentpole box office. Her team is still negotiating, but insiders say the studio wants a clean slate for the new Avengers roster. Even Anthony Ramos, who plays tech mobster the Hood, reportedly had his Disney option tightened from 3 future projects to 1 if performance targets are met. Legalese for only if the show doesn't nosedive. The creative side isn't immune either. Showrunner Chinaka Hodge was locked for Season 2 back in 2023. By May 2025, her extension is in limbo, pending first-week metrics. One writer calls the mood Game of Thrones in the Slack channel. Every day you wonder whose avatar goes dark next. All told, Marvel seems willing to prune anything or anyone to keep Phase 6 viable, even if that means ghosting the very folks who built Ironheart in the comics. But the axe is still swinging, and the next targets aren't actors or artists. They're entire storylines Marvel once touted as the future of the MCU, and what Disney is gearing up to cut may blindside even the most jaded fans. With the trailer fiasco still trending, Disney's finance team swung the next hammer: slash every non-essential project, pin the blame publicly, and pray Wall Street applauds. Overnight, the studio's once ambitious slate shrank to Bob Iger's new mantra: 2 films, 2 shows a year, no exceptions. The casualties came fast. Armor Wars, downgraded from theater release to development pause, its VFX budget quietly diverted to finish Fantastic Four. Young Avengers writers' room dissolved. Staff told their pilot, no longer aligns with Phase 6 priorities. And the biggest shocker, mid-season crossover arcs in Ironheart, originally designed to seed secret wars, were axed in late April reshoots, saving an estimated $12 million in CGI and cameo fees. Internally, execs call this the $80 million haircut, but crew members liken it to a fire sale. Whoever isn't bolted to the floor goes out the door. Producers who once boasted of six-figure reshoot funds now barter for green screen time. Composers recycle themes because recording new, orchestral cues cost too much. Yet the optics are even uglier than the spreadsheets. Every new cancellation headline drives the narrative that Marvel's golden age is over, while fan channels frame the cuts as proof Disney will sacrifice any character to balance its streaming. Books. The irony? By trying to quarantine Ironheart's fallout, the studio may be fueling the very skepticism that sinks future projects. And that brings us to the turning point, when a universe built on endless possibility meets a balance sheet with zero patience. In our final chapter, we'll see whether Marvel is about to pivot back to the heroes that started it all, or double down on the replacements, even if the armor is already cracking. Marvel's numbers tell a sobering story, even quality over quantity. Flagship Thunderbolts is limping toward a worldwide haul of roughly $355 million, making it only the MCU's third worst earner to date, and confirming that box office headwinds didn't vanish with better reviews. Bob Iger now cites the film as proof that the studio must reduce output and focus more on better event releases, locking the whole brand to 2 theatrical movies and 2 live-action shows per year, a drastic rollback from the streaming glut era. That edict is already reshaping television. Executive producer Brad Winderbaum told advertisers that 2025 is the transition year, with Ironheart and Wonder Man functioning as legacy leftovers from the old model, while future series will, be greenlit only if they can sustain multi-season runs on tighter margins. Inside writers' rooms, the new buzzword is standalone. Make each show approachable without MCU homework, but connect just enough dots to lure moviegoers back on opening weekend. Yet, the strategy's first real test is barely 8 weeks away. Analysts warn that the pressure already weighing on Fantastic Four, First Steps, tasked with kicking off Phase 6 and reviving fan faith after Fox's past flops, has only grown heavier as Marvel's stumbles mount. If audiences decide they've had enough of replacement heroes and half-launched ideas, the studio may have no choice but to sprint back to legacy icons like Tony Stark and Steve Rogers, or risk a rebooted universe nobody shows up to watch. Short, Marvel stands on a razor's edge, double down on the new blood, or retreat to the legends who built the brand. By the time Ironheart's end credits roll and Reed Richards stretches onto IMAX screens, fans and Wall Street will have delivered their verdict. So here we are. A 6-episode gamble filmed in 2022, shelved until 2025, and now poised to decide whether Marvel charges forward with a new generation or boomerangs back to its founding icons. Panic firings, last-minute reshoots, marketing overhauls, even a phase-wide haircut all trace back to one simple fear. If Ironheart stumbles, the ripples could sink Fantastic Four and redraw the entire MCU roadmap. Yet buried in the chaos is a rumor no one at Disney will confirm. A mid-season twist that allegedly rewrites Tony Stark's legacy and leaves his true final invention still hidden. If that bombshell lands, the fallout won't stop at 6 episodes. Stick around. What Marvel tried to keep in the vault might be the spark that